our health development partners, religious leaders and cultural leaders, implementing partners of our family planning program and civil society organizations, the youth and young people in the house. Can you say, oh yay? Oh, yay. The persons with disabilities, the international and all the national delegates that are participating in this conference, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very, very big pleasure for me to be standing here before you, but I'm not putting on my shoes. I'm putting on the shoes of Dr. Jotham Musinguza, as you have heard, and he has sent his apologies because those of you who have been following, he has just received, actually last Thursday, an outstanding award from the Bill and Melinda Gates Institute for Population and Development as a global champion for population and development, reproductive health, family planning, and HIV/AIDS. But at the same time, he has been the co-chair of this conference. And although he feels terrible that he cannot be here, he is with you at heart. And he's very, very delighted about the theme of this conference, which is relating family planning to development. Because we have been speaking this language and we cannot speak it anymore except if we achieve the results that we want to achieve. And before I make his presentation, I also want to appreciate the Cornerstone School, that contraceptive prevalence rate to 50% by 2020. And when we came up with the FP-CIP, we developed the goal and we agreed that this goal is going to help us attain impact in three areas, in the demographic area, in the health area, but also in the economic area. So what we targeted to achieve by 2020 in terms of reducing or averting unintended pregnancies, we put a figure of 4,067,000. And we also think that if we had implemented this costed implementation plan very well, by 2020 we shall have averted 579,000 abortions. We also set a pace that we shall reduce or avert maternal deaths by 6,072, avert child deaths by 118,000, and unsafe abortions to a tune of 554. And most importantly, we shall make a very big cost of savings in terms of maternal and infant health up to a tune of 126 million US dollars. And at the same time, indirectly, we shall benefit through women participating in income-generating activities, but also participating in their own space and ensuring that we keep especially the girl child in school. So the progress of the CIP to date, where are we in terms of increasing the modern contraceptive prevalence rate? We have fared relatively well, ladies and gentlemen, from this graph. At least we have kept a pace, an increasing pace. But it does not mean that we are going to attain the target where we set at 50%. But we can fairly say we have moved fairly relatively well. And we are currently at 39%, and we hope we shall by 2040 increase it to somewhere between 40 and 42%. The progress on the other indicators in terms of increasing the total users, currently we are at 3 million, and we are targeted to increase this to 4 million. Additional users, we are at 1.3 million. Our target is 2.6. I've just said the modern contraceptive prevalence is 39. The unmet need, we have managed to reduce it to 28%, and we have a lot of work to do to get it dropped to 10%. And we also have some work to do to increase our demand satisfied. And in terms of contributing to the unintended pregnancies, we are still way below. Unsafe abortions is almost halfway at 255. We have to shoot it, like I say, to 555. The maternal deaths, we have only by now managed to avert 2,900. Our target is 6,000. We are not doing well, ladies and gentlemen, but we have a progress to report on, which at the same time is pleasing because your efforts is what is bringing us to where we are. But this definitely means there's a lot of work for us to do. The presentation is supposed to relate the costed implementation plan and the FP2020 framework to the demographic dividend. And in that case, together with the National Planning Authority, the National Planning Council with support from UNFPA have been doing excellent work. One of the things that we have done is to model investments that are necessary for the country to harness the demographic dividend. And for those of you who are not familiar with the demographic dividend, this is a benefit that accrues when the country changes the population age structure, so that we have more working population as compared to the dependent population. So the saving that accrues from the investments economically is what we call the demographic dividend. And this country has set up a target. And the target is in terms of GDP per capita. And if you look at the graph that is before us, that is the last red line. As a country, we have purposed ourselves to shoot the GDP per capita to 9,523 by 2040. As I speak today, the GDP per capita stands at just less than $800. And if we are going to shoot this to 9,500, we have to increase it more than 10 times. So in relation to the family planning costed implementation plan, and FP2020, where are we to ensure that the country gets on the path to harnessing the demographic dividend? I have also highlighted only two indicators in this because of time. So the total fertility rate, which is the black, and the second row on that slide, shows that the current total fertility rate for Uganda is 5.4. Ladies and gentlemen, for the country to harness the demographic dividend, we have to do a lot more investment and bring down the total fertility rate to 2.5 children per woman. The Cornerstone have told us we are giving birth like rabbits. So if you're sitting next to a woman, please tap her chin and say, are we serious? So if we are going to get this down to 2.4, we have to 2.5, there's a lot of work before us. And then if we reduce the total fertility rate to 2.5, we are going to reduce the dependence ratio. And in a while, I'll show you how to get that down. The dependence ratio is the number 4. 4? Yes, right, 4. The dependence ratio of Uganda stands at 97. And this means the number of dependents that each one of you is taking care of. Okay? So we have to reduce this to 58. But if our fertility is not addressed, there is no way we are going to hit this mark. So I'm showing this because I'm relating the costed implementation plan to family planning. There is hope if we invest well. I also want to show you why we are faring relatively not so well. In this slide, you're looking at the total fertility rates for Africa and the world between 1950 going up to 2,100. So what you see is just that the total fertility rate for the world in 1950 stood at 5, whereas the total fertility rate for Africa at the same time stood at 6.6. There are countries that have tried to do so well and have managed to shoot this down by 2018 to to about, for Africa, about between 5.2 and 4.6, and 4.2 somewhere there. But for us in Uganda, the total fertility rate stands at 5.4. What is a little bit disheartening, ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of disparities across the regions. There are so many inequalities in terms of family planning, in terms of sexual reproductive health issues that are failing this country. As I speak now, some of our districts have a total fertility rate as high as 8.9. There are so many districts that have total fertility rate higher than 6. So if we are going to invest in a very wonderful family planning program, I think we need, as we have agreed, to reach the high burden districts. High burden in terms of total fertility rate remaining high. We need to get there so that this 5.4, the current total fertility rate of Uganda, comes down. If we don't put focus to these districts, then we are not doing justice to the country. And why is our total fertility rate so high? It is because our girls start giving birth when they are still very young. And there are also disparities between urban and rural. If you look at this slide, the bottom part, which shows a purple color, I don't know whether everyone captures it as purple, but I can read it as purple. The bottom part of a chart shows the reproductive life of a rural girl. A rural girl starts giving birth, rather starts having sex when she's 16.3 years. She gives birth though she gets married at 18.8 years. And by the time she remembers to use, sorry, I do not have a pointer. I don't know how I can, whether I can get here. But on average, a rural girl starts having sex at 16.3 years. Then they get married at 18.8 years. Then they remember to use contraceptives for the first time at 24 years. And by that time, they already have 3 children and they are pregnant for their 4th child, on average. And this is what the school has been telling us. The urban girl is a little bit lucky. They will start later, and their fertility will not be as high as the fertility of a girl. So this is where the biggest problem for our country is. If we are going to ensure that we are moving on the path towards development, we have to address, thank you very much, Professor. Okay, this is what I've been trying to explain. The rural girl is the one at the bottom. So this rural girl will have her first sexual intercourse at 16.3 years. And then get married at 18 years, almost 19, okay? But in between here, they are having children. And by the time they are 24 years, they will have as many children, but they will remember that we need to use a contraceptive. We also have the urban girl up here who starts having sex at 17.4 years, gets married at 20 years, 21, and then remembers to use a contraceptive at 21 years. So these regional disparities are not favoring development for this country. So we need to focus our efforts to everyone, but ensure that the rural is targeted, right? And because of this fertility, we continue having many children at the bottom of our population pyramid. Currently, we have about half of the population is below 15 years. And I have already told you about dependency. All these are dependent on the few in this age bracket that are earning. They cannot save because everything that they are making is being spent on taking care of this big age group at the bottom of the pyramid. So ladies and gentlemen, what must we do? Harnessing the demographic dividend, requires that we increase the working age population. For us in Uganda, we are still in the years of the 90s, because our working age population is still very small. So we are living years backwards because we are giving birth early and we are not investing well to ensure that we change that. There is hope, ladies and gentlemen, for us to transform this population age structure. I have shown two countries. One is Uganda, which is up here, and the other is Malaysia. Malaysia and Uganda had a similar population age structure in the 1960s. And what we want to have is the population age structure that Malaysia currently has. If you look at this, the population pyramid is completely different. We have fewer people at the bottom of a pyramid and more people in the middle of a pyramid. And this is the only thing that will help this country harness the demographic dividend. And like I have been explaining, we need to ensure we invest in family planning. We need to ensure that we change this population age structure. The current population, rather average annual growth in MCPR for Uganda is about 2.4%. When we came up with a costed implementation plan, our goal was to increase the modern contraceptive prevalence by 5.2%. This was a little bit ambitious because no country has been able to attain this. But if we do very good investments, especially in the method mix, there is hope that we can attain our development agenda. So if we invest well enough in diversifying the method mix for this country, and every woman and girl who wants to use a contraceptive has a choice, we are going to reduce unintended. This is an Impact Now model. Impact Now builds its investments on the method mix. Method mix is ensuring that we have all the different contraceptives available so that the girls, the women, even the men who want to use a contraceptive can make an informed choice on the method. So when we continue doing our business as usual, okay, we are going to reduce unintended pregnancies to by 2.8 million. But if we invest and we ensure we have a method mix that is taking us to the long-acting, to the permanent methods, we are going to reduce, rather to avert unintended pregnancies up to a tune of 3.7 million, close to 3.8 million by 2020. We are not yet there, but the investment that we make is what is going to give us the impact or the result. It is the same thing with unsafe abortions. We have set our targets. We are falling slightly below the target, but we are sure we can do a lot more. It applies as well to the mothers' lives saved. And it also applies to the children's lives saved. If we invest in ensuring that women only get pregnant when they want to get pregnant, ladies and gentlemen, we shall ensure that we save a huge number of children. These will not die. They will be saved. And we know that one of the key factors for reducing, or rather for reducing total fertility rate is convincing our mothers and fathers that their children will live. Because when they are convinced that their children are not going to die, they will probably get the desired number of children. But if we are doing our business as we are and they know out of the 5, 2 of my children will not live, they will continue hiking the number of children that they are planning to have. The biggest benefit for us will be in the healthcare costs that we save. I already told you that when we developed the costed implementation plan, the target was to shoot these savings to 128 million. If we invest in the method mix, and have more women using the long-term and acting permanent methods of family planning, we are going to have a huge saving. And this money can be spent on educating our children, on developing our roads, and this is what we are looking for on so much development. So ladies and gentlemen, in summary, when we increase the use of family planning and ensure we have a method mix, we are likely to attain our goal of MCPR increasing to 50% by 2020, but we have only a year to go. So are we going to be able to attain this? And we know that if we do this, we save more lives of children, we save more lives of our mothers, we avert more than 3.7 million unintended pregnancies, we prevent 1.1 million unsafe abortions, we save up to a tune of $189 million US in direct health care. And if we can save this, we are all looking for money, isn't it? We are complaining every day that family planning program is not getting enough. But if we do the right thing, we are actually going to have a saving. So what must we do? The people who have talked before me emphasized the role of working with the districts. And I'm very, very delighted that a number of districts are represented at different levels, technical, political, and even from the community. We have tried to ensure that districts come up with costed implementation plans. But how many of our districts have costed implementation plans? There are not so many. And how many of the developed and approved costed implementation plans are implemented in terms of budgets as well as the activities that have been spelled out? There are very few. We have heard from the video, there are districts that have allocated funds for family planning, and we appreciate that. But we want to ensure that every district prioritizes family planning in the development plans. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, to realize our health and economic benefits of investing in family planning and attaining the national development goals, we need to have national, regional, and districts prioritize family planning and adopting implementation of our national family planning policies. And the family planning policy for this country is the family planning costed implementation plan. We also want to ensure that we prioritize family planning financing and mobilize additional stakeholders to support districts that don't have costed implementation plans to have them. We need to strengthen the country's supply chain for family planning commodity security, and particularly ensure that what is procured is what is demanded for, but also support the last mile distribution. We need to scale up the family planning provider training and counseling. We need to adopt a multi-sectoral approach to adolescent sexual and reproductive health. Our challenges start with a young girl at that tender age. Our focus is usually after 18. So if we are going to change the demographic picture of this country and attain a demographic dividend, we cannot speak without the young people. So the young people always say, yay. So we need to work with the young people. We need to support them, not only at national level, but within the districts and the communities. We need to continue the biannual review sessions of the CIP progress, and lastly, incorporate family planning for adolescents and youth in all the costed implementation plans that are developed at district level. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. And Honorable Minister, I respect your presence in the House.
Thank you so much, Dr. Betty Chadondo, for that very informative presentation, full of information, full of useful information, and asking really very pertinent questions.
UNHCR, behind over there, thank you.
Perth is also here. Perth, and then the Belgian Embassy. If I were you, I would stand up. Yeah, Belgian Embassy, thank you. Plan International is also here, and we are also privileged to have the World Health Organization. You know, these are very big funders, among others, and these are representatives and other professional bodies that are present here that we may not have listed. You are all most welcome. So we are running straight on to our discussion session, and I will hand over to our chair. But before I hand over to our chair, ladies and gentlemen, USAID is also represented. We will continue to guide your path. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies, Ms. Harriet Adong, for performing a very important and yet difficult function. I was really hesitating to do it because I knew I would not do it as well as you have done. And that is recognizing and introducing the many partners who are here, the many stakeholders, and the many implementers. So we really, she highlighted in her presentation. First of all, she said, where are we in the progress towards harnessing the demographic dividends and the path to development? Okay. Secondly, what investments do we need to make to reach our targets? Then she made observations, but I'll just pick out two of them. And the disparities between the urban and rural divide or areas. She showed the famous urban-rural chart, which I'm sure many of you enjoy because it really depicts. We are going to take a few questions. We'll try, there are very many of you will try to be as equitable as possible. We have the roving mic. We'll start from this side of the room and then go to the other side. We'll take, I believe, only 4 questions or comments. Let's not take time on the questions. Ask it briefly and answer or not. So let's begin on this side. So there are no questions on this side yet. There's one in the back there.
Chairperson, my specific question is on indicators.
Just please mention your name and where you work.
Senoga Martin, I work for National Union of Disabled Persons of Uganda.
Okay.
I missed out on the indicator on disability. Since we are talking about inequalities, I would love to hear an indicator on disability, because once we don't have any...
Good morning.
My name is Dr. Peter Grembe. I work for Reproductive Health Uganda as the Director of Programs. I was drawn by Dr. Betty's presentation, and especially the fact that she mentioned that we are not doing as well as we possibly could, and things like that. So I felt that perhaps what we need more is good academics here. So I think we need to do more in terms of research, so that perhaps we ask the questions that will lead us to the right answers. Because I feel sometimes we are a bit more generic in our questioning. We are generic, but I think if we go more specific, regionally, perhaps, and in terms of the subdivisions, then we might get better answers, perhaps, and we might have to have interventions that are more focused, rather than having generic recommendations and interventions.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is here, and then you can...
In my district, when you move in a rural area, you will find majorly most of these young ladies, they tend to drop out of school at a very early stage. Then the major cause will not be only poverty, but majorly when they begin to receive their menstrual cycle. And in some cycle, sometimes the problem they have is they fear these young men, and also there are no specific places essentially for changing their paths. So they end up fearing and running away from schools, and if we can have a way of addressing that, will help us so much. However, these ones in towns are very clever animals. When they engage in sex, they know what to do. But these villagers, for them now, they just go like that. So that is what I'm trying to see. But also, however, government needs to also have more input there because warm-up. So that's how they do it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that comment. Next. There's a question there.
My name is Abel Simana, also a Makerere CDC fellow on MCH and HIV. My concern, if we want to make this change very fast and very quickly, we should go where it works well. The education of Uganda is too costly for a girl child. And until the Ministry of Education is given more money and more girls and UPE, but we have gone wrong on higher education for girls. We are losing there so much, many girls are coming out of school. Then WHO has a setting, concept called school setting. How many education materials are in schools where most of our children are? Health education and promotion in schools is poor. We are just...
Thank you. Those are 4 questions, but I saw another hand there.
Thank you, Chair.
Let's take that one also.
Thank you. My name is Richard Ware, the District Chairperson of Challenge. Actually, I come from an endangered district, and I want to thank Minister of Health Districts. You find, while you're talking about the national average of 5%, our women can give as many as 8 children. So fertile women. So to me, I was saying, I'm happy the Minister of Health is here. Why don't we as Ugandans, Mr. Chair, take this as a serious matter and have a vote on family planning? In districts we are now having sanitation votes, and at least we are working on addressing that. We are improving in terms of sanitation. Why, Mr. Chairman, don't we have a vote? And then you can ask districts to look and supplement, so that we look at this matter. The rural people are a bit behind in terms of education. That's why you find urban schools are doing better in primary, even second. Last one is also linking education with this issue of family health. Why don't we make it a condition, like we condition the construction of classrooms to cater for persons with disability? Why don't we at least apportion a small percentage to cater for a room for girls when all the construction, like construction is going on in schools? Why don't we also attach the issue of an central room for girls to change and so forth?
Thank you very much. I think we need to have a question from a woman or from a lady. Dr. Chadol told me that unless we get a question from a lady, she doesn't know how to begin answering all those others. Do we have a lady? Oh, okay, good.
My name, how can they be held so that to achieve the target of 2020 and yet they want to be involved in family planning method? That is my question.
Thank you very much. So now, Dr. Chadol, back to you.
A few indicators, but we are going to ensure that we provide a more detailed presentation about, touching on the different indicators that may actually have an effect, a major effect on the impact we reap if we are to invest in family planning for development. My colleague Peter, your question is wonderful. For countries to harness the demographic dividend, I actually have a fact sheet here. It should be circulated anytime soon so that each one of you picks. coming from the National Population Council, we have done a lot of work on the demographic dividend, but we have summarized some of the issues here. I agree there are inequalities in education, in poverty levels, in everything, but I could not bring this out in just 10 minutes. And I also appreciate UNFPA supported studies, inequality studies, regional inequality studies. And if you can access some of these reports, it is awesome work that has been done there. And it also relates to the question that we have received from Butaleja, Richard, about where we should invest. Because definitely, even in my presentation, I pointed this out. The regional disparities are denying this country to reap the benefits that we want to reap. So, Peter, there are studies. If you come to me, I can share some of them with you, but UNFPA has undertaken them and they are available. Oromo LC5 chair, Oromo, the LC5 chairperson of NEBI, school dropouts, in developing the roadmap for the country to harness the demographic dividend, we looked at 5 pillars. The first one was the demographic transition. Up there, the second is health, what health should do. The third is education. There is economy, which really drives the socio-economic transformation. And then we have issues of governance that are critical. So I'll beg that we look at some of these, but we can also share with you the different work that we have been doing, which gives the multi-sectoral approach to the work that we need to do. It clearly stipulates what should education do to contribute to family planning, what should education do to contribute to improving the livelihoods of our young people, and at what levels should we invest more. If children are dropping out of school, what must we do? So issues of vocation training are factored as priority intervention within the Ministry of Education for the country to reap the demographic dividend. Yes, Richard, your suggestion on a vote for family planning, this is what we have been advocating for. We advocated for family planning, we got the vote, whatever it was, but it is for 116. It is for reproductive health. We are still advocating for a specific budget line for family planning. We also want to advocate for a budget line for family planning at district level. So this is excellent, and I'm sure those that are responsible are listening. And we are not going to stop until we see this happen. I have talked about the linkages of the different ministries, and there's a summary in this: streamlining family planning in sexuality education. I participated in a meeting organized by Ministry of Gender. They invited sub-county development officers this week. Actually, it ended yesterday. I was with them on Tuesday. And they were looking at how do we incorporate issues of sexual reproductive health into the livelihood program. And they were complaining, however much they try to improve the livelihood of our communities, for as long as women give birth early, and when they give birth early, the responsible parties that have impregnated them run away from them. Even this 1 million shillings that they receive is not going to help them, because all the money is going to be spent on taking care of the children that they have. It is not going to be invested for them to improve their livelihood. So there is a challenge, but I was very, very much impressed with the route that Ministry of Gender was taking, ensuring that sexual reproductive health should be factored and integrated into the work that they are doing as a ministry. And I think these are some of the stepping stones that we are starting to see. And lastly, Ruth Tasso, I'll beg Ministry of Health to respond to your question, because I don't want to mince my words.
We know that there are drug interactions between ARVs and hormonal contraceptives. And in all the trainings we have indicated some of the medicines which are not supposed to be given when you are on a certain method of family planning. And usually it is part of the training of health providers, and then they cancel them. One of the medicines is the one which contains the fevales, and you know it also, this one also affects also other drugs like those of TB, like rifampicin, and also medicines of epilepsy, like phenytoin. Those ones which we, in medicine, we call the induced enzymes in the liver, and which metabolize the contraceptives too fast, so that their efficacy is reduced. We are mainly seeing it with the women who are on implants. When they are on ARVs, they tend to become pregnant earlier than the scheduled time, whether it is Jadel or Impanon NXT, and we counsel women accordingly. And from the recent ECHO study results, that they have emphasized that all women who are on ARVs, if they are, or rather, all women who are on family planning methods, if they are to prevent any other more risks and whatever, they have also to use condoms to avoid becoming what? Pregnant. Because the study compared women who were on injectables, who were on implants, and who were also on IUDs, and there was no difference between those who became pregnant and also those who got HIV. So we are promoting dual protection for the women who are on ARVs and they don't want to become pregnant. They should continue using condoms. TLD, the new medicine which had been denied for women who are in reproductive age, the recent recommendation from the Mexico conference is that the fear of abnormalities in newborns, especially spina bifida and others, which had been feared, it was not conclusive, and they are saying the medicine can be safely used by women who are in reproductive age, not necessarily that it has to be for only men or women in menopause. I think I stop there, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mihail. I hope that answers the question.